What is up, Raffalitos? Welcome back to my channel. It's election day here in Guyana. It's the 1st of September 2025. Election day, the final day of campaigning, well, I guess. And then we can look forward to smooth sailing for the future, hopefully. So what's happening today is that people are voting all over the country. Last time I was here, I showed you all of the German flags all over the country. Today's the last day to see those flags because after today they have to be taken down. And we're back on the bridge. This is the overpass, the pedestrian overpass here at Eccles. And the reason why we're back here is because on the 1st of September, we wanted to see how far this campaign promise has come. So one of the major campaign promises this this election cycle, is the new Demerara River Bridge. And we want to find out, did they make the deadline? Did they complete the bridge in time for the election day, which is today? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a look at the various parts of the bridge project and see if they managed to keep their campaign promise. So let's go. So guys, we're back at Eccles. This is the overpass here at Eccles. As usual, as I've shown you in the past, this is the East Bank Public Road looking north to Georgetown. See a long line of cars here in the foreground. These cars, they're all connected to a voting site. There is a polling place, a place of polling just about there in the middle of the long line of cars. So those people are here to vote. It's election day, like I said, in Guyana. That's the arch at Agricola, which marks the entry to Georgetown. And that's looking north on the East Bank Public Road. This is looking south. So south on the East Bank is looking towards the Timeri Airport and points south. And there you can see the bridge. So what has happened to the bridge since the last time we were here? They actually managed to complete the bridge. You can see that connection is now fully established. So that was the only point last time we were here that didn't seem to be fully connected. Remember the last time we were here, they had closed this gap, right? The gap between the ramp, between the ramp and the high span section, that gap had been closed. And now they've managed to close all of the gaps. And there was in fact an official opening attended by the president and a whole gang of politicians. I think that was yesterday or the day before. And I think they were able to drive from one end of the bridge to the other. So to that extent, they have managed to complete the bridge in the sense that it's continuous now, and there's a surface that can be driven on. However, as far as completion, as you can see, there's still cranes at the top of the pillars, right? So those are the pillars at the high span section, and at the top of both pillars you can see the cranes are still mounted, which means there's still work to be done on the bridge. So the bridge is not completed in the full sense of the word because there's still a whole lot of work to be done. I'll show you that the entrance ramp that is at the Heroes Highway, the roundabout, has not yet been completed, and the access road, which is 2 miles long, although the surface has been completed, the road itself has not been open to traffic. So that's the state of affairs here at Peters Hall. The new Demerara River Bridge is open officially for political reasons, but not quite completed. All right, that's what it looks like today on the sorry, the first day of September 2025. The 1st of September 2025, the bridge has been opened unofficially. In other words, it's not open to traffic. It's politically open because there was a ceremony conducted to open the bridge, but it is not officially open to traffic because the entrance, that is the roundabout at the entrance of the bridge, has not yet been completed. And we'll then take a look at that later on in the next video. So let's get closer as usual and see what we can see here on election day in Georgetown, Guyana, in South America. So people have been asking me in the comments, what are these German flags doing in Guyana? Now you can see there these oil barrels, basically. Oil barrels painted in colors of the German flag all along the East Bank Public Road. So these oil barrels, I suppose, represent the fact that Guyana has emerged into a new phase, new order of development. We are in the era of oil and gas. So there is a oil boom in Guyana led by ExxonMobil, and it has become part of the political campaign cycle this year. Yeah, so the oil and gas industry is part of the political campaign cycle this year, and most of the political struggle for the foreseeable future is a struggle to gain control of the massive amounts of money that are now flowing into the country because of oil and gas. In the last 5 years since the last election, so Guyana has a 5-year term for president. So presidential elections are held every 5 years. So 5 years ago, in 2019, 2020, that election cycle, oil production had just begun. In other words, in January 2020 is when oil production began, and there was elections that year, I think in April, and there was not a president elected until August, which is why at the end of August, now beginning of September, we're having another election. So it's exactly 5 years since, or a little over 5 years since the last election cycle. And since then, since 2020, since August 2020 to now August 1st, September 2025, the country has seen a massive inflow of capital, of petrodollars from ExxonMobil, from the contract with ExxonMobil. Now, the last election cycle, the contract was the major issue in that cycle. There was a whole lot of noise, dispute, lies, misinformation about this oil contract. It was supposed to be the worst oil contract in the history of the world. Guyana was going to lose $105 billion because of this bad contract. It was called a 2% contract by the opposition, now ruling government. All of it turns out to be lies, because if you go back to the videos I made during that election cycle, you will see that I explained the contract. I actually explained the mathematics behind the contract, and everything I explained in those videos turned out to be correct, because the numbers now show that Guyana actually gained $7 billion US from that oil contract over the last 5 years. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning here at the East Bank Public Road. Today is now a holiday, a national holiday, because of the election. The government has officially declared a holiday to allow for voting all over the country, and voting commences at 6 a.m. So there are people who have already voted, And some of the polling stations I've passed since I've gotten to this point have people lined up already to vote, and some people have already voted. So the issue is the oil and gas industry brought in $7 billion in the last 5 years. The problem this election cycle is how is that money spent? Now, none of the political parties raised the issue of the contract this election cycle because, of course, everybody got it wrong. Although it was a great contract, as I explained, most of the political parties, including the current opposition parties, there are 6 of them. I'll explain them in a few minutes. Most of them avoided the issue of the contract because the ruling government that won the last election cycle claimed that they were going to renegotiate the contract. How it was such a bad contract, it was robbing Guyanese, they're going to renegotiate the contract. Turns out they didn't do anything. They did not renegotiate the contract. They in fact just collected the money and spent it. Spent $3.6 billion out of the $7 billion we gained. In other words, more than 50% of the money that was earned from the oil contract in the last 5 years has already been spent, has been disappeared. And you can say, well, look at all these roads that have been built, the bridges have been built. Well, it turns out that those roads and the bridges were not built with oil contract money. It was not built with money from the oil. These bridges, the bridge one straight ahead of us now, and the new roads and so on, East Bank Public Road and East Coast Bypass Road and so on, that is a road that ends here at this intersection. Right, the East Coast Bypass Road ends here. This is the road from Bagotstown. We're at Bagotstown, the Eccles interchange, right in the distance. We've actually gone down this road before and showed you all of it. It continues on the other side of the Eccles interchange to Ogle. And that road was actually built with a loan from the Indian government. $50 million from the Indian government. Of course, the road cost much more than $50 million. And so it had to be supplemented. And a lot of the new infrastructure that was built, including things like the gas to shore pipeline, which has not yet been completed, and the gas to energy project, and so on. All of these things are being built with loans. So despite the fact that Guyana earned $7 billion in the last 5 years, and half of that money has been spent, the truth is that none of that money was spent on this infrastructure. Most of it was spent in ways that cannot be traced. There was no record keeping of how that money was spent. And that is the major argument of the opposition. Right? The main opposition party is arguing that the government has squandered most of the oil money that we earned in the last 5 years because there has been no account, no record keeping, no accounting, nobody keeping record of how the money was spent. The money was withdrawn from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and placed into a consolidated fund. In other words, it was just pooled together with all the other money from taxes and from gold and from sales of other government revenue, and then spent on contracts, government procurement, and all that stuff. And so there was no way to itemize the spending from the oil money. So that's the main opposition party, the APNU, to the coalition of several small parties and one of the large parties, DNC. That is their main argument this election cycle. Now, the government, of course, led by the PPP, is claiming that, well, we've built all of these projects, we've built a new bridge, we've built all these roads, and they show evidence that we've delivered, which is also one of the reasons why I've come back to this bridge here on the 1st of September to ask exactly what was delivered. Is the bridge open? Is there traffic on the bridge? As you can see, when we looked at the bridge from the overpass at Eccles, there was no traffic on the bridge. And although the bridge was open politically, with the political ceremony, it's not really open to traffic. So the government is making it, their political argument is that they delivered a new bridge and roads and so on. And so that's one of the things we're here to check on. Now there's a third political party, which is called WIN, W-I-N. We something in nationhood. We invest in nationhood party, led by a billionaire, a local billionaire, Mr. Mohammed, who has been sanctioned by the US government for money laundering and smuggling, gold smuggling and money laundering. Turns out that Mr. Mohammed, their presidential candidate, is the son of a long-standing member of the ruling party. In fact, he was so tight with the ruling party that he provided security services for them during the last election cycle, donated billions of dollars to their campaign, billions of Ghana dollars to their campaign, and in exchange for his donations got favors, huge favors, was able to buy a Lamborghini and a Ferrari and very expensive supercars in Guyana, where the taxes on these vehicles is usually 4 times the value. So if a car like a Lamborghini costs $500,000 US, you can expect to pay upwards of $2.5 million US for it in Guyana. So whereas say you were living in New York or California, you want to buy a Lamborghini, you pay $500,000 for it. In Guyana, the same Lamborghini would cost $2 million to $2.5 million US. It turns out that the government, current government that is, gave Mr. Mohammed concessions because of his political campaign donations and so on. He was able to get his Lamborghini, his Ferrari, and so on, almost tax-free, relatively tax-free. But when he was sanctioned by the US government basically have receipts because apparently this vehicle was purchased in the US and shipped to Guyana. And the US government knows the price of the vehicle and has specific information about the transaction. So the US government applied sanctions to Mr. Mohammed, and his political party immediately disavowed him, made him persona non grata, and for the past 3 months proceeded to try to put him in prison, accuse him of various crimes and misdemeanors, accuse him of sexual assault, all sorts of petty and embarrassing things. Mr. Mohammed responded by forming a political party called WIN, W-I-N, We Invest in Nationhood, to compete in this election cycle. And that is the third party. Now here we are, we're back on this is the overpass at Peters Hall. Right, it's the Peters Hall overpass that's looking north towards Georgetown. Like you said, it's a Monday morning, Monday the 1st of September, but it's a national holiday because it's election day in Guyana. So this is what the traffic looks like on a holiday. This is looking south towards the bridge. So that is the new Demerara Bridge. From this point of view, this vantage point, you can begin to see the rails on the bridge. And as you can see from here, there's no traffic on the bridge. So for those of you who want to know if the bridge is open on the 1st of September, not as far as traffic is concerned. There is no vehicles going over the bridge. although the bridge I think is continuous so that vehicles can actually pass. From where we are right now, no vehicles are going over the bridge, and I can see the rails are still missing. So as you can see, up to that point, up to this point, you can see there are rails. I don't know if it's clear in this video, but you can see there are rails. There's some flashing lights there. There's some blue and white rails. But beyond that point, there are no more rails. So the bridge is not open. It's not completed. This is the pass. This is the section that passes over the East Bank Public Road. That's the overpass section. You can see the yellow rails, slightly higher than the other rails in the region, in the vicinity. Right, that is the ramp. That ramp reaches back a quarter of a mile and then 2 miles to the exit on Heroes Highway. So like I said, the third party is the WIN political party, led by Mr. Mohammed. And their argument is that taxes are too high. So the WIN political party says, look, man, the taxes that we're required to pay on these vehicles is too high. They didn't dispute the fact that the Lamborghini and the Ferrari and so on that was purchased by Mr. Mohammed benefited from reduced taxes. What he's arguing instead is that the taxes are too high and that they're going to reform taxes. They're going to do tax reform and they're going to make the money directly available to the people. By the way, all of the political parties, without fail, have promised to give cash grants, cash money to the Guyanese people from the oil revenues. So in that sense, everybody is trying to buy votes. That's looking at the bridge over the tops of the houses in the neighborhood. It seems as if my camera is dirty this morning. The lens is dirty. But yeah, so WIN says, look, we're going to reform taxes and make sure that you don't have to pay 4 times the price of a vehicle. The third or fourth political party was a breakaway. In fact, there are 2 breakaway parties from the opposition. One of them led by Simona Brooms, who was in fact the women's mining advocate. So for women in mining during the last election cycle, she was the female miner who represented women in mining. She now has formed her own political party. Don't remember the name of the party or the symbol, but her campaign is again about women's rights. The 5th political party is one. They formed a coalition of Lindeners, people from Linden, led by Mrs. Desir Walton. Mrs. Desir Walton apparently wanted to be the prime ministerial candidate of the opposition APNU, and when she was not chosen, decided to break away and form her own political party. And that means she went back to her roots, to Linden, and formed a coalition with the community, the political leaders in Linden, to form a party called the FMG or FGM. I can't remember exactly what it is, but their political party is arguing mainly about security, because her portfolio while she was in the opposition, that is Desir Walton, was about Venezuela and Maduro and Guyana opening its borders to Venezuelans and so on. So her political campaign has been about security, and towards the close has been about women's rights, the fact that There is a large number of women being killed in domestic violence situations in Guyana. And the government has done nothing substantial to address the issue of domestic violence and femicide, killing women in Guyana. So Ms. Dacier Walton has made that her issue of femicide, the issue of domestic violence, women being killed by their intimate partner violence, and security. So that is the fifth political party. What is the sixth political party? Let me see. Can't even remember the sixth political party. So there, oh yes, the AFC. So the AFC is former coalition member led by Nigel Hughes, the attorney at law. He's famous for having argued that 32 is a majority of 65 during the last election cycle. It's a long drawn out argument during the last election cycle where nobody had actually gotten a majority of votes. There's 65 members of parliament, and what you're voting for is for representatives. The party that gets the most representatives, majority of 65, which is 33 or more, that party wins the election. And during the last election cycle, nobody got 33 votes. But the opposition, which was back then the Rural Party, had gotten 32 votes. And the remaining parties had gotten the 33 votes. And what the current government is able to do is to form a coalition with the minor parties to get those 33 votes to win the last election cycle. So Nigel Hughes is infamous for arguing that 32 is the majority of 65. Morning. Videoing the bridge.
No man, you can't video the bridge, man.
Yeah, I can video the bridge anytime.
No man, no man.
Check my YouTube channel. I've videoed the bridge for the last 2 years, every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. So that is what the elections this year are about. The bridge, to some extent, has been completed, you can see, but it hasn't yet been opened to pass under the bridge. Right, this is the overpass. We're passing under the overpass now. The bridge has been completed as per campaign promise, but it's not yet officially opening. There's no vehicular traffic crossing the bridge. But those are the 6 political parties competing for control of the government on this election day 2025. That's looking east under the bridge. This is looking west towards the west coast. So what is the outcome that we expect? Quite frankly, I expect them to have a split of the votes. There are 6 political parties. I expect all 6 political parties to get some representation in parliament. That means that no one political party is expected to get 33 votes or more. I think, quite frankly, you're going to have a minority government where each political party has less than 33 votes, and therefore they have to form a minority government, meaning that they have to get together with some of the largest vote getter, the party that wins the largest number of seats will have to form a coalition, whether temporary, dynamic, or permanent, with one of the smaller political parties in order to govern. And that would be an ongoing dynamic situation for the foreseeable future. So what I'm expecting this election cycle is the split of the votes. I think the Mohammeds, that is the Win party, will probably get a significant number of votes, the third largest number of votes. I think the largest number of votes may still go to the leading party, the PPP, the second largest number of votes will go to the PNC because they have a permanent base, right? They have a permanent base of support. The Win Party now has a base in the indigenous community, the indigenous people of Guyana, so they're going to win the third largest number of votes. And the other three parties, AFC, the FMG, or FGM, I don't remember exactly what, and the last one with Ms. Simona Brooms, they're going to win maybe 1 or 2 seats each, less than 10 altogether. But that's what's up, guys. That's what's happening here in this neck of the woods at Providence, in the fastest growing economy in the world, on election day 2025, as September 1st, 2025. Now I'm out here on Monday morning as usual because I'm getting in my exercise. I don't let any of this stuff bother me. It's unfortunate that I had to block a lot of people during this election cycle, but you know what? I felt good about it, because if you let the noise come in and control the message, then it's not clear. It becomes rather muddled and unclear, full of lies, what I'm saying on this channel. And I can't have that. So I'm happy to say that a lot of the troublemakers have been removed from this channel, and it's smooth sailing for the future on this channel, Raffle Nation. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. That's Red Road looking east. And here we are back at the intersection of Red Road and the Republic Public Road, the East Bank Public Road. And that's looking back at the bridge from Red Road. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening here at Providence in Guyana, in the fastest growing economy in the world, on election day 2025. September 1st, 2025. Happy Labor Day to those of you who are celebrating in the US, in Canada, and in the UK and elsewhere. Welcome to the fastest growing economy in the world. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening in Guyana. Later!